I've always thought it's important to practice with the foods that you have stored, so today we're going to make what I call Cheater's Chicken Cordon Bleu with the foods from freeze-dried wholesalers. Alright everybody, welcome back. So one of the cool things that I have discovered with freeze-dried wholesalers is that your survival and emergency preparedness food doesn't need to be boring and bland. With food packaged like this, you can make up your own meals any way you want. So what we're going to do today, and the reason I call this Cheater's Chicken Cordon Bleu is because it's not really chicken cordon bleu. It's not deep fried. So if you happen to be on a low-fat diet, this will actually work out well for you. And if you're trying to avoid carbs, another good thing too. So what we got for the lineup today is, of course, our freeze-dried chicken breasts, and these are uncooked. Freeze-dried couscous, we'll get into what that is in a second. Freeze-dried broccoli florets, and some freeze-dried Parmesan cheese that I'm going to be adding with the Swiss cheese, just to kind of give it a little burn on top. For the couscous, I wanted something that was a little bit healthier than, say, rice or potatoes, so we're going to try that out. Now, couscous is a pasta made from semolina flour, and it's mixed with water, so it's really kind of a little bit of a cross between noodles and a pasta and a rice dish, but the taste of it is really good. And I will add some butter and a little bit of salt and pepper in that too, because you really want a little bit of a flavor in it. It's very bland if you don't add something to it. So the first thing we're going to do is hydrate this stuff. So first off, I have some water here for the chicken breasts, and we're going to be putting some water in here for the broccoli. Now I'm only making myself a small dish here, and a little bit of water in here for the couscous. So I'm not going to be making a ton of this today, just making a small amount. The broccoli hydrates very quickly. Another thing about this food too is you don't have to be super careful on how much water you use, because you'll be dumping off your excess water. So if your item seems hydrated, you don't have to worry about it. It's done. I'm going to toss in some broccoli. Wow, that does smell good. That smells like fresh broccoli. And we'll put a little bit of water on top of that. This will be a messy video today because it's going everywhere. There we go. All right. I'm going to take a little bit of couscous here. Just kind of dump it in there. If you've never had couscous, trust me, it's really good. Kind of a Mediterranean kind of thing. Normally it's served with some kind of sauce or something in it. You can put it in salads. I'll take out the oxygen absorbers here and dump this in. And they're just kind of round little balls. That's good there. We stir it up. Okay. And let that hydrate. I'm going to put a little more water in it. I already have the water out for the chicken. Now this and this will hydrate fairly quick. The chicken hydrates quickly, but takes a little bit longer than these guys here. So, oops, get that back in there. All right, mix that up too. Broccoli's doing good. And wipe that up. We'll move on to the chicken now. And the chicken breasts are really simple. These are uncooked, so you do want to treat them with, the same care that you would uncooked chicken anywhere. Let's take a piece out here. And I'm just going to be making 2 pieces of this today. That's a good piece right there. I want 2 healthy pieces, though. Decent size. There you go. And we're just going to soak that and let it rehydrate. Now, the Parmesan cheese, I'm adding this for flavor. You don't really need it in this dish. Generally, I've used it a few times in the past for it, but you don't really need it. So what we're going to do with the Parmesan cheese, and how I do any of the cheeses, is I'm just going to hydrate this in a Ziploc bag. It's real simple to do. You just take a little bit of the cheese, put it in the bag, and again, we're not using a ton of it, so we're going to take a little bit, just put it in the bag by hand, and get my hand in there. There we go. Alright, and I'll leave the oxygen absorber in there. Okay, and I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of water in there with that and hydrate it, just to let it breathe a little bit, and that will hydrate very, very quickly as well. So, we're going to let all this stuff hydrate. I'm going to bring it back when it's done and hydrated. See, that's how I do that. And I just let that sit. Make sure everything gets wet, kind of let it sit. You can put it in the fridge if you want, but generally, that's what I do. So everything's working here, working along and hydrating. And I'll bring you back once everything's hydrated, the water's drained off, and we get to cooking. One of the things I wanted to show you is that it's very easy to cook this. If this were to be a camp meal, you really don't need much with it. Again, we're not breading the chicken, so it doesn't need all the egg wash and the breadcrumbs and flour. You're just going to be putting some minced garlic, a little bit of parsley, my little mix of salt and pepper, and a little bit of onion powder, and you're good to go. I'm going to be cooking things with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in the pan, so we're going to cook that once that's fully hydrated. The broccoli is already done. As you can tell, it's nice and soft. Hydrated very quickly. Couscous is done too. There's a little extra water in it. However, I am going to warm this up in a pan, so I'm not worried about having a little extra water in it because that will evaporate off. And the chicken is almost done. Just the thicker part's still a little hard, so we're still letting that hydrate. So give me a few more minutes once everything's done. And this is done too. I want to show you that. It's all nice and soft. And we'll bring you back. I'll put the stove up here. And we'll start cooking this. One thing I did forget to mention that isn't part of the freeze-dried wholesaler stuff is we're going to be using some Swiss cheese today to cover it. And we're going to be using some Hillshire Farm ham to give you a little bit of ham over the chicken. Basically what I'm going to do is I braise the chicken in the pan, I cook it really well, put the ham on top, put the cheese on top, melt that in a pan when I cover it, and it'll be ready to go. And even though it's not breaded, it really tastes awesome. So we'll try it out. Check it out, and we'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll finish up. All right, chicken is fully hydrated. Now, something I do with all of the freeze-dried wholesalers meats when I hydrate it, I want it to cook, not to poach. So I want to get as much water out of there as possible before the chicken actually, goes into a pan. I don't want the water to poach the inside of it. I want the chicken to actually cook in the pan. So I pat it off with a towel, try to get as much water out of there as possible, and as you can see, that's fully hydrated. Nice and soft, just like regular chicken breast. Okay, flip this over, wipe that off. I want to get as much of the water out of there as possible so it won't cook in its own water instead of cooking in the pan like it normally would. So I'm going to get the stove up here. I'm going to start cooking this. All right, we got the stove up and running. I have the chicken here, and I am going to season it. I'm going to put it on there first really quick. Put on a little garlic. And I just do it like this, especially if you're working at a campsite or somewhere where you don't have a lot of room. I just season it right in the pan. A little bit of onion. You can put flour on here if you want. Generally what I'm trying to do is make it without. One less thing to carry, one less thing to worry about if you're doing this at home during a disaster or emergency. Okay. And a little salt and pepper. For those of you who don't know, I love using these little Tic Tac containers for seasonings. They work awesome for camping, for your go gear. Seasonings are actually pretty important. You would be amazed at how much better stuff tastes with a little bit of salt and pepper or a little hot sauce or something like that. So we're going to get this going here. And I'm going to turn that up a little bit because I have it really, really low. This stove here, by the way, if you're interested, this is an Ozark trail stove. I bought this at Walmart many years ago and did a review on it on the channel. Oop, I put it out. Did a review on it on the channel. Really, really like it. There we go. Keep turning it the wrong way. There we go. So I'm going to let that chicken cook. And we are going to come back. When that's almost ready, I'm going to heat up the broccoli over here. I have it on a low flame there, so we're just going to put the broccoli in with a little bit of salt and pepper. Hope you can see what I'm doing here. I know that my camera lens is only so big. A little bit of salt and pepper on the broccoli, a little bit of olive oil in there, and a little bit of garlic. Okay. A little bit of minced garlic. Everything tastes better with a little bit of garlic, salt, and pepper. And this has proven the point again that you do not have to have nasty, bland, boring food with your emergency preparedness stock. Let's see how these are doing. We'll flip this over. That started to cook. There we go. See, and I'm actually getting it to cook instead of poaching it with the water inside that you don't want, because then it's just kind of rubbery and doesn't taste as good. Mix this up. Really, well, the broccoli, all we're doing is just heating it up. That just needs to be heated up. And then the couscous we'll do on a separate dish. I'll probably do that in this little pan here. And this is that cook set I just recently reviewed. Just going to stick that in there. Get my mess out of the way here. Turn that down a little tiny bit. And again here, salt, pepper, a little bit of butter, which I've already put in here. Okay, a little bit of salt and pepper, and a tiny little bit of onion and garlic. I know you can't see what I'm doing down here, but it's just the couscous. nothing unusual. There we go. So that's ready to put on the fire once these guys are ready. This is almost heated up. Just trying to heat the broccoli, really. I'm not trying to burn it or cook it or anything. Flip the chicken again, see how it's holding up. Yep, it's cooking nicely. There we go. You're getting that nice little brown on the back. Now when the chicken's fully done, it's going to be a little bit. When the chicken's fully done, we're going to put the ham on top, on each one. We're going to slice it up into a piece that fits up there. Then we're going to melt the cheese over it. And I have some tin foil over here, which should always be in your emergency gear, to let it kind of heat up and melt the cheese on it. Okay, bring you back in a few minutes when we're a little more underway. All right, I turned the gas off on the chicken. So now we're just going to take some of the ham here, and I just take a couple little pieces, just place it over there like that, just to cover the chicken breast up. That'll do. And this one back here. And the pan will stay hot enough to melt the cheese, so I'm not worried about that. Got a little bit of butter over and my garlic over there. And you can use powdered butter, any kind of butter you want, doesn't matter. Alright. Put a little cheese on top of that guy. And a little cheese on top of here. This is a super easy way to do it without frying everything. So let's see how the broccoli's doing. That's looking pretty good. Nice and heated up. Again, too, that's the nice part about the freeze-dried stuff is you really only need to heat it up. You don't need to cook anything because it's already cooked. At least the broccoli is. So we're going to leave this here. I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to heat up the couscous now. Okay, that's our next chore. I have to relight the stove again. It doesn't come with a piezo igniter on this particular stove, but it was super cheap. I forget what it was, but it was very inexpensive. So if you're looking for a camp stove or a 2-burner stove, I would recommend using this in your house, say, during a power outage. As long as you have adequate ventilation, you should be fine. Okay. And again, we're just heating the couscous up. And what I'm going to do is finish heating that up. Let me turn it down a little bit. This stove simmers really nicely, too. So I'm going to turn that down a little bit. We're going to heat that up. I'm going to clean up my mess here. And now that pretty much everything is cooked and the cheese is melting, I will bring you back when everything's plated up and ready to go. Alright, so there you go. Let me bring it up close to you so you can see. So while all your friends are choking down beans and rice in the next emergency, you got yourself some hearty, healthy food here. So let's try out the chicken. It's nice and tender, as you can tell. Let me make sure I get my piece of ham on there. That's absolutely perfect. Excuse the chewing. A little bit of couscous. A piece of broccoli. That is absolutely amazing. Really, really good. Gotta say, that's a winner. I mean, really. Even the melted cheese, I put a little bit of the Parmesan cheese on top of this, and it melted really nice and really tasty. Came out nice and soft, as you can tell. That's, been rehydrated, and I'm cutting it with the edge of a fork. So, definitely good stuff. All right, so that is my version of Cheater's chicken cordon bleu without frying it. And I have to say it's really, really good. I learned this many, many years ago when I worked in a really small little privately owned restaurant in Manhattan. And the chef came up with it one day for lunch for all of us because it was lunchtime. And I was like, wow, this is really good. You don't need to have it fried to make it taste good. So I've got to say, definitely a big winner there. And shows you how easy it is to take this freeze-dried Wholesalers food and make anything out of it. I mean, I did this here with a camp stove, compromised space, not all that much room. You could easily do this in your home during a power outage or emergency or whatever. And it makes for a decent meal. It's healthy, decent food. It's real food. I mean, there's no additives in these things. It's just chicken breast. Chicken breast, boneless and skinless, rib meat removed. That's it, There's no additives or junk in this. This is just plain old stuff. The only thing that might be a problem for you folks with gluten allergies is the couscous, because that's really high in gluten. But other than that, he's got rice, red beans and rice, tons of other stuff. So definitely check him out. If you use my link down below to try out the freeze-dried Wholesalers food, you're going to save 15% today. That link is right there. Now, I have a code underneath that. You don't need to use the code if you use the link. If you go to the site without using the link, you have to use the code. But if you use that specific link, because somebody got confused and said, oh, it wasn't taking the code, if you use that link immediately, when you check out, you'll see it right there. It will have the little icon that says, coupon code Iridium242. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I definitely enjoyed this. This is going to make for an awesome lunch for me right now, because it's awfully close to lunchtime. And I thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out all our links down below, as well as the freeze-dried Wholesalers link with a 15% off link right there. We have our Amazon store down below, our Food for Patriots link, which is preparewithiridium.com, and our Thrive Life. So I thank you folks for watching. Stay safe and stay prepared.